Hello, everyone. It is another awesome week for the Author's Dilemma. It is Thursday evening at 6:30 Central, and we are doing this live for those of you that are watching live. And for those of you that are listening to us, wherever you're listening to us at, well, I do not know what day or time that you're listening to us, but I hope it's a good day, regardless. All right, I am J. Jack. I write a plethora of things, but I'm writing urban fantasy right now. But usually I am known for paranormal thrillers and horror.
Hyrum Hawks, and I write hard sci-fi and sci-fantasy.
I'm Jennifer Carr, and I write clean romantic. Wait, no, what do I write? Clean contemporary. What am I doing? Clean contemporary romance and Christian romantic suspense.
It's been a long week for all of us.
Just going to combine all that together.
Yeah. Is it 28 or 29?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know what I write, Josh.
Yeah, like who am I today? I don't know. Anyway, so which leads us to the next point. What's going on in our businesses? I have no idea. No,
I've been sending out my Audible promo codes to people so people can listen to my first book. Now it's on Audible, and hopefully I can have the motivation to start doing some marketing soon. Then I'm also working through the issues with translation. Turns out when you write a book that has roots with the Persian language, and there's a big country right in the middle of the majority of Persian speakers live in that doesn't have good relations with your country, that there are complications. So this is the first week I've had to talk. I am communicating with lawyers over how to deal with the fact that I want to interact with people there. Thing is, they don't want to actually let me know because none of them want to die.
Well, I mean, can't you find someone that's not someone that's maybe from there, not there anymore? I mean,
I can, but I'm finding that if I want to have any kind of market, they're the majority of the Persian-speaking people. And so it would still be a book that would have to go kind of underground, but it's still possible for me to make money on it. So I am learning I have a friend who's a lawyer who is helping me learn a little bit about international law and sanctions. So that's a fascinating, that is something to be aware of if you want to write for a certain niche market that maybe you shouldn't have in the first place. But whoops. Wrote the book before I knew that was a thing.
Well, that sounds like an interesting topic because that brings up so many. I don't know.
Once I learn more, we can make that a topic of.
So even if you hit the niche market in the United States, I mean, there's tons of people that speak all sorts of languages, and even if it's a niche language, I wouldn't say Farsi or Persian, or whatever dialect that they speak is a what. I don't even know what I'm trying to say here, but anyway, it seems like you don't even have to go to that country to really do well. I mean, you can focus on ethnicity or the ethnic group here within the Western culture and do quite well.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm finding out.
Well,
it's an interesting question. I don't know which way it'll go until the lawyers all tell me.
Yeah.
But
until someone sneaks it in and they put
That's right.
And then there's a little trouble for me. But yeah, my next book is still working towards finishing it in a couple of weeks in the first draft and see where that goes.
Yay.
All right. So, Jen, what's going on with you?
Well, this last week I hit the last end of sentence on book 4 of the Real American Country series, which is funny because book 2 doesn't come out until October, but I wrote ahead trying to kind of work up a backlog or whatever, and I spent a long time crying over that book and making my way through it, and then realized that I've only got 75,000 words, which is the short book for me, but nonetheless, it is so emotionally heavy that I was I'm not even touching it again for now. For a long time, it just may be a short book. We'll see what happens. So I've been working on that for the last couple of weeks, pretty nonstop, but now I'm shifting gears and full planning September's social media calendar for book launch. So yay.
That's fantastic. So in my world, not much. So like I said, I've talked about it before. I've been going through a lot of issues lately. Had a death in the family, and honestly, I just don't have an energy. I do not have. I don't have the bandwidth right now to even think creatively. I can't even talk. Anyway, creative bandwidth is gone. That's it. So as far as the writing is concerned, I'm not really doing much writing. Although I will get back to it at some point. It's like an itch that will keep on building and building and building, or like a bubble that will keep on building and building until it finally pops and I'll finally get back to it. So that on that front, I'm there. However, I did change up my Amazon ads. I'm getting back into Amazon ads, and I took a course through Dave Chesson, who is behind the Kindlepreneur,
yeah.
And he has a product called a KDP Rocket, which helps people find keywords and categories for their books. So I took some training this past weekend, and I've changed some things up, and I'm starting to see a little bit of a change. And so basically what Amazon used to do before versus what they do now, the old way of doing it was putting thousands of keywords, and it didn't even matter if it met your book. It was just getting your book in front of eyes. Well, Amazon has changed in the past the way they do things. Well, Amazon changes it daily, but the way they do things, they're wanting your book, or if you're going to put something out in front of their customers, which was what we're all trying to do, is they want your book to be relevant to the keywords that you're putting your book in front of. So if you're putting your horror in Christian, well, it's not going to do very well. In fact, you're going to pay more to get your book out there, and if it's seen at all. However, if you put your horror and you surround it with horror keywords, things of that nature, you'll do better, and potentially your ads will be less, or you'll be spending less to get it. So anyway, I started doing that, and we'll see what happens. I'll give an update as I do it, as I'm learning.
Love it.
So, and that's all. And Mr. Carr says, I listened to and really enjoyed the Persian Asteroid. A review is in the works.
That's Hyrum's book that was just released on Audible.
That's right. And that's Jen Stalker. So,
hi, honey.
Can he be my stalker too?
Oh, that's
he's already started with your audiobook, so
that's where it begins.
That's where it always begins.
All right. So what is going on in the news? Oh, by the way, if you're watching, if you want to say hello and tell us where you're watching from, we're more than happy to say hello back. What's going on in the author world?
I didn't pay
moving on
this week because the memes from the Olympics are too good.
Oh my goodness.
I did have news. I was waiting for
Turkish
Hyrum.
silver medalist.
Oh, dude.
For the
Yeah. He was awesome.
He's the best.
All right. So for those of you that may not know, so Turkey, well, I guess they're competing in the pistol air gun shooting or whatever. I don't know what exactly the sport is called, but this guy, like everybody else, looks like the Borg, right? They have all these like special headgear with things covering their eye and optics and things like that. This guy looks like he just, hey, we need someone to shoot. I'll do it.
He's on his way to a barbecue.
Dad.
Yeah. He's like, I got it. And he got silver. And it's just funny because it's like, you look at it and compared to everybody else, and it's like, where'd this guy come from? He's 51 years old too.
The best part is the memes aren't just like, well, he looked cool. It's more like, here's his backstory. People are putting him in as a Turkish assassin into stories. They've got people are making animes with him as a main character.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So
I wonder what his real story is, though. I'll have to look that up sometime. But that's pretty funny.
Cool. Yeah.
I guess there's hope. He's 51,
right.
So there's
there's still life to be lived.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. All right. Speaking of news, though, in the book world,
right?
So apparently, people have been on a really big returning books to Amazon kick. And when that happens, and when that happens, I don't think people realize that they're taking money from the author and not from Amazon, because when you have returns, you pay for the book that's returned, basically. And so you can end up owing Amazon. So that was just something. So is that a reason to pull your books from Amazon, or is that a case for Kindle Unlimited because you can't return books to Kindle Unlimited, or what do you do? So I thought that was kind of an interesting conversation happening over on Threads.
Well, people that that do that. Now, like, okay, I'm totally cool if you inadvertently bought my book and it wasn't something you were planning on getting or whatever. Hey, I have no problems giving your money back.
Yeah.
But if you got it, you read it, and you somewhat enjoyed it, hey, I'm not doing this for free. You know, and if you want people to continue to write, you know, you need to support them. I mean, I know that's kind of, yeah, I mean, that's just the way I look at it. Like, you know, if
the nice thing is they can't return it after they read the whole thing. There is
I don't
some
know.
limit.
Oh, there is?
Amazon has changed. I don't know what that
There
limit
didn't
is.
used to be, yeah.
But there didn't.
No,
used
because
to.
I mean,
But now
there-
it's still too much. These are people reading a good chunk of the book and then returning it weeks or months after. Because the fact is, if you return it within the first week, Amazon hasn't paid you yet.
Right.
And so if the fact is people are getting charged, they're having to give money back to Amazon. That means it's been weeks or months.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can see a portion of it being read. Like if you read a quarter of it, half of it, and you know, hey, listen, with inflation the way it is, I understand money's tight, but, you know, and I don't mind you giving the book back, but if you read it all,
Yeah.
and you return it,
Yeah.
then I'd be a little peeved.
It's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah. So, is there anything else? Anything else in the book? Oh, so what are your thoughts on that, Jen? Like,
Yeah, that's a tough one for me. Like, I don't think you should be, especially if you buy like an ebook. Like, I don't think you should be allowed to return it because that's just one of those things. Like, they're not that expensive now. If you know, in my opinion, they're not expensive compared to a paperback. You know,
Right.
so if you
Right.
got
Yeah.
it, whatever. You know, whatever. With a paperback, you can go and resell it, I guess, if you really wanted to. And so there's that. But I don't know. I don't think you should be allowed to return it, but that's just my opinion. But I also prefer to have my books on Kindle Unlimited so that there's less of a chance of people returning my ebooks.
no,
So,
that's true too. So, what's the general consensus that you saw? that
about
argument.
that. It was about that. It was, you know, people were just, mostly authors were angry that people
Yes.
were returning books.
How dare these cheap people? How dare
It
it?
never crossed my mind to even try to return an ebook. I'm
You
like,
know, it's
that
fun.
was a-
You know,
that's a
you know, it's
choice I
hilarious.
made.
You know, being in law enforcement, you know, I see some things, and it's just funny to me because I'm like, some things just don't even cross my mind. Like,
Yeah.
how can it cross your mind to do something like this? Like I don't know.
I don't either. Anyway,
Oh well, I guess that's why I'm not in jail.
one of the reasons, right?
Yeah,
Just
one of the
one.
many. One of the many. Something else I received today. I received an email from Amazon today, and I guess August 15th, they're changing up their Amazon ads to include, and it's only for certain countries. And here, I didn't read too much into it, but it's something to be aware of. If you are advertising your ads in certain countries, I think Canada is one of them, and in Europe countries, they're adding a 3%, like a 3-cent tax or a 3-cent fee on top of those, because it's covering, like, you know how in Europe they had like the VAT, like it's a free, you know, tip. I don't know. It's a value added tax, and I don't know. I just see it like, wow, they're just taking more money from me. So it's like, okay. Anyway, that's just something to be aware of.
That's
That's
interesting.
yeah. So be on the lookout. I think that's supposed to go into effect on the 15th of this month, but I don't know. I read it and I don't like it. So I mean, because
Ditto.
yeah, I mean, because the thing is like, especially for ebooks, the ROI or the margin is very thin, right? It's not like you make a whole lot off of a sale of a book. So them cutting in just a couple cents still adds up. So anyway, that's just my thought. Anyway, something to think about.
It is.
All right, so tonight we have a very special show where we're going to talk about a couple of topics. We're going to talk about imposter syndrome, and then we're also going to talk about blogging and the beauty of all that, which Jen knows more about that than I do because that's what she's doing, along with all the other stuff that she beautifully does. So last week during our show, we got a question, or after our show rather, from Mayra Orozco. She says that she writes some poems, and she thinks that she's had a few good ones, but she must admit that she feels that her bad ones outnumber her good ones, and she was wondering if this was a common problem with writers or just her.
Oh.
So Mayra, everyone feels it.
All the time.
I have 4 books out and they're crap.
But they're not.
But they're not.
Okay, well, let's start with an anecdote from, I think it's Neil. It's either Neil Gaiman or Terry Pratchett. Sometimes I forget which one's which. Anyway, this is told by another author who knows them personally. Basically, at the halfway to 2/3 mark, this author would write it would basically send a letter to their editor, email, whatever it was back then, and say, "What am I doing? This book is crap. This is a joke. What do I should just stop." And every time the editor would call him up and say, "Dude, you tell me this every single time. Every book you contact me at halfway to 2/3 through and you're like, this is terrible." And it's never terrible. Now, that's not to say that we can't write terrible things. And your first draft is terrible. Guaranteed. If it weren't, then you probably took too long on that first draft and rewrote it 20,000 times, and so that's why it's taken you 40 years. If you just write, it's going to be a little bad. And if it weren't, you're not human. And so once you accept that, then imposter syndrome, instead of being a negative, you start realizing, I'm human. I hope you're human. Otherwise, we have something else to talk about. And
the subject of his next book.
Good. Yeah. Please contact me.
But no, it's true. Everybody has the imposter syndrome. And for those of you that don't know what that means, the imposter syndrome is basically anytime you take a step out in front of yourself, something new, you feel like, well, who am I to say anything about anything? You feel like you need to be an expert, or you feel like you need to have a PhD before you can, do anything in that particular subject. And, the best advice I ever heard, and I've probably said this before, is, sometimes, especially when you're teaching other people or you're showing other people, sometimes it's just be a 5th grader to a 3rd grader. You don't have to be a college grad, just be a 5th grader. And, at that point, you can kind of show whatever. But when it comes to writing particularly, or creative works, just do it. Just keep going. Yeah. Just keep going. And it doesn't matter. If you enjoy doing it, just keep doing it. But then at a certain point, you do want to share it because, I don't know, I think everybody wants a little bit of legacy. Share it with people you care about. Share it with people that are kind.
Respect. Yeah.
And are respectful. Like, don't share it with your family unless they're that kind of people. And but if you keep on getting good reviews or good feedback, every once in a while you'll get a bad feedback, and then you got to see, okay, what place is this coming from? Is this coming from someone that knows what they're talking about, or maybe it just wasn't their cup of tea? Because trust me, not everything is for everybody. Like, I'm not really into romance novels. I know, except for Jen's. Hers are great,
right?
But it just goes. But at the same time, you can go to Amazon and you can take a look at. You can type in, whatever subject you want to put in, and by gosh, someone's buying that book because you put it out there, someone wants it. So,
yeah, and here's the thing. Also, if you're writing poetry, that's a whole different can of worms than sitting down and writing a book, right? Usually, poetry comes from somewhere a lot more personal and a little deeper. It's more of an innermost thought than sitting down and writing a fiction novel. So I could see where
limericks.
Right. But I'm just thinking it's probably it would be for me to share something like that. Because that would feel a little more personal. But at the same time, if you don't share it, you won't know if it's good or bad, right? Like, you're not going to get that feedback. So you do have to share it. That just means stepping outside of that comfort zone.
Right.
And like Josh said, your work is for somebody. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely for somebody.
That's right.
I mean, the fact is, if you find it entertaining, someone else does too. It's just finding that marketing is don't get me started on how different marketing is from writing. They are not even in the same. The fact that authors have to do marketing is the cruelest joke nature plays on authors, because they're not even in the same class. So,
And he
If
has
you
3
had
master's
known-
degrees.
I mean, seriously. And if you had known that marketing was part of writing, would you have still written your first book?
I'd have taken marketing courses in college instead of something stupid like, quantum
Chemistry?
physics.
No. That's fair.
It's funny. Most of the things that you end up doing in life, it's one of those things. That's fine. It's one of those where you do it by accident, and then you end up in it.
That's so true. That is, and that kind of leads into talking about things like blogging. If we're ready to translate and transfer over to that topic,
Yeah.
Talking about writing your book and writing poetry and that kind of thing. Writing a blog is just kind of an in between of sharing just more of your work, which is a great way to get feedback on your writing style or to find people who connect with your writing style. So doing something like that might actually help get you out of the comfort zone of I'm scared to share my work, because you don't have to go sit and write a poem on a blog. You can write about writing poetry, or you can write about things that you write poetry about without actually sharing your work, just to get more comfortable with people reading your stuff. That's
right.
One suggestion. So anyway.
Well, continue on with that subject, Jen.
Okay.
Tell us all about blogging now.
You're the expert.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but it's something that I've been doing more of in the last couple of months. And I know that doesn't sound like a long time, but you have to put in a lot of work to get blogs going. And so it kind of stemmed from, I had a blog years ago, like even before I had a kid. So that was over 14 years ago when blogging was like a big deal. And I had a blog about cooking and being in the kitchen and stuff, because I was not a natural born chef. And so I had to learn stuff, and it was just fun and humorous ways to kind of share my stories with other people. And I was like, okay. But then it kind of fell to the wayside, or so I thought. And it kind of did, in the sense that people aren't going to blogs for entertainment so much as they're going to blogs for information these days. And so for authors, when you're looking to build a reader base, starting a blog is a great way to do that, because you can interact with other people who are searching for whatever it is you're writing about. And that's one of the biggest things that you have to figure out, is who your target market is, right? And this is the way to do that. So for instance, I write a lot of my blog posts are about country music or music in general, because my book series is about country music and that kind of thing. Also about writing romance, and so I write about romance and stuff like that on my blog. And people can search for, if they're looking for clean contemporary romance, well, guess what? My name is automatically associated with in the Google search results, right? Because that's what I'm constantly writing about. Or country music, that's what I'm constantly writing about. So that's blogging is a fantastic way to reach your target market as well, because when they start searching for other stuff, you also become an authority on a subject that they're searching for.
That's true.
It is true. Thank you.
Yes.
I learned that. For instance, like with Hyrum, he writes about space and stuff. So if he started linking, hey, this is a fun fact about space, and NASA said, and then you link to NASA, well, people start searching for NASA. Guess what? You're also going to be associated with NASA, and who doesn't want that? Or like if you're writing about werewolves. If you're writing about werewolves, you start writing about folklore that involves werewolves. People search for werewolves all the time, probably more often than you would expect. And so then your name is now associated, and you become the expert on the matter. And so people are born trusters of experts on the matter.
So I'm not the expert on blogs, so I'm going to ask a question. Let's say I love conspiracy theories. I find them highly amusing. I like writing stories where the conspiracy theory is true and what that means. So you mentioned werewolves, and it made me think of one of my favorite conspiracy theories, which is that the moon is actually a hologram. But okay, so would you is that the kind of blog that people would be interested in? Is things like random conspiracy theories and the logical implications of
I think so. I think that's one of those things that, because people who read sci-fi and hard sci-fi and fantasy and that kind of thing, they go looking for these kinds of stories to entertain their brain, right? And so if you're posting about that, now you have to be careful not to come across as the nut job who actually believes it. Even if you do, you can't come across that way, because once you start coming across that way, people are like, and we're going to distance ourselves from Hyrum because
Yes.
woo.
That's true.
So you have to come at it from humor, right?
Oh, yeah.
to kind of make you poke fun, even if you do think it's true. Like nobody needs to know if you believe the moon is a hologram or not.
I personally don't, as there's this, lack of evidence, but it's wonderful for short stories because
Yeah.
what if someone replicates this holographic technology and they can induce werewolf transformation anytime by just casting a hologram into a room.
I mean, interesting. So see stuff
That's a
like
crossover
that.
for Josh and his paranormal stuff.
Yes. But it's all fake.
Okay,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. Also, you can create collaborations, right? That's a
true.
collaboration that you can totally have. And so you have another author come to your page who may have their own presence online, and then you go to theirs, and then you're cross-pollinating the whole internet with your name and your work. So yeah, it's extra work, right? It does take effort and brain power, but it's one of those things that how often do you have an idea pop into your head? Pretty often. I can guarantee it.
So to start that, like,
Yeah.
what services are out there that you use to do that?
So WordPress is free, right? You can get a WordPress blog. Now, if you want to go buy your own domain, that's different. You're going to end up paying for a domain. Some websites, like I use SquareUp for my website, and it does not have a blog feature. It has an RSS feature where I can, RSS feed from my blog, which is fine. I don't love it, but it is what it is because I'm not paying more for anything. So my WordPress blog is free. And so you can go as cheap as free, or you can see if there's integrations to go with your website or whoever hosts it and that kind of thing. So, cheap and easy, and constant, like just keep a running Word document with blog ideas, or note on your phone or something, and just be like, okay, I have things in my head I'm going to ramble about, and then it'll be a blog post, So, free and
Interesting.
easy. Yeah, it is.
So, so the topics that you've been doing it for,
I think 2 months,
2
right
months.
about. It's been published for 2 months. I started writing a month before that. So 3 months technically, but I didn't start posting them until I had like a backlog that I could schedule ahead of time.
And how often do you put a post out? Do you use it daily, every other day, once a week?
Right now it's 2 to 3 times a week because, and this is where it all stemmed from. So I have the Connected Conversations podcast, and I was like, okay, not everybody wants to listen to a podcast, but a lot of the topics and the guests that I have on are pretty interesting. Like this week, the conversation was with an adult autistic who was not diagnosed until she was an adult, and just kind of talking through her childhood, growing up, becoming an author, and realizing that being an autistic adult is it's very nice to have that label and that kind of thing. So I did a whole blog about neurodivergence and creativity. So if you don't want to go listen to the podcast, you can go read some of the highlights from that blog post and just some of my thoughts on all of that.
Oh, that's interesting. And then and then you plug in your
to my podcast.
Yeah. And then
exactly.
And then I've heard, and I've seen this before, where you get like a Google AdSense, and that
you
also
can do that. Yeah, I haven't done that yet, but
well, like I said, there's the possibilities there to make just another source of income for those that are interested.
Exactly. Yep.
So Kim Skis, oh, good Lord. I'm sorry, Kim. I can't talk this evening.
What's in your teacup?
Yeah, well, apparently not something I should be drinking. Kim Ski Shack Madison says, just wanted to hop on and say hello. Well, hey, Kim, thank you for...
Back.
I could go somewhere with that, but I can't think right now. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
Welcome back.
It was tickling. It was tickling in the back of my head. I'm like, okay, there it is. So,
sorry.
Now, all right. So, all right.
So thinking about the connecting, I connected my podcast to those posts. You can do the same thing with your book if you're writing about space and that kind of thing. And by the way, if you like space books, here's a space book. Or if you like werewolves, here's a werewolf book, that kind of thing. So always link back. Like make sure they're going to your Amazon page or your shop, wherever your books are being sold, to just one more connection to your name and work.
And that's what... You definitely know how to say ski shack, or you better. Haha. Well, I went to school with her, so yes, I heard it there. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have been able to say it right had I just seen it. Yeah, so that's also an idea for those that like to read books, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
in fact, you were talking about just the other week, someone lost her account with Amazon,
Oh yeah.
and all her reviews were gone.
Yes, all of her reviews were gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that she also had a blog where she would blog about the books and do all the links. I don't know.
I don't know if she had a blog or not. I know she had TikTok, right? She's on TikTok and Instagram, which is another reason. Add in a blog, because if any of those apps go down, you still have the blog, because chances of WordPress going down are like slim to none. But that also gives you the opportunity to say, if you liked this book, you will like my book. If you liked this book, you'll like my book. And so you just constantly, that's another expert's name attached to yours.
There we are. All right. Hyrum, what are your thoughts?
I lacked thoughts because I started reading the next comment.
Uh,
But as far as back to blogs, I do want to. I want to look more into it.
Yeah.
Big problem is my website that I have. Well, I'm between hosts. I'm about to not have a website briefly while I just don't want to spend $35 a month on something that is not presently making me money.
Yeah.
yes.
That is fair.
Kim asks, what do y'all think about Frida McFadden? Have y'all read any of those? I do
Give
not
me,
know.
what is one of her book titles? That name is very familiar. and I
It sounds
feel
familiar,
like-
but I know I haven't read any of hers.
She's not coming up on my read list, and so I don't think I've read it.
I don't know. What does she write?
Yeah.
We're all
Let us
clickety
know.
clackety.
Yeah, I know. Click, click, clack, click,
Like I'm
click.
sitting here looking
As
at
we're
my
all
Goodreads.
searching.
I feel like I
Well,
should
they
know
all
that.
look like they're scary. The housemaid, the coworker, the teacher.
Oh, okay.
the inmate.
I haven't read. Listen, I have not read it because all the reviews that I read were like, it's probably a little more intensity than I am up for. So I know who that is now, and yeah, no, I have intentionally not read her stuff. But everyone who's read it, they've loved it. But that's also kind of the genre they read anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, well, the teacher the cover has a apple with a knife stabbed into it.
Oh, and that one, and it's a little taboo. It's a little taboo, and so
Stabbing your
also-
teacher? Yeah,
Huh?
I guess so. Stabbing your teacher?
mean-
Yeah, I guess so.
The student didn't stab him.
Oh.
It was his wife.
All right. So, all right.
Spoiler alert. Sorry, that was wrong.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have done that.
And Kim likes romance more than thriller, so you are right up Jen's alley with her books.
I'm telling, and book 3 that comes out in March of next year is a romantic suspense as well. So
That's right. What about book 4?
book 4 is sad.
Yeah.
It's just sad.
Yes.
I will be sending Kleenex with all of my arcs for that one.
You're-
Not even
you're-
kidding.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, she says she needs to get it, so we'll put a link in the show notes so you can come back and pick those up. So, all right, so I think we kind of, is there anything else that we need to add to that, or I mean, is that kind of like?
No, but I can put this. I'll put this 10 things in.
No, go ahead. Let's go.
Well,
through
no,
it.
I mean, we kind of talked about some of them, but we don't
Oh, okay.
we don't have to talk about all 10 of them. But I'll put it all together, and we can stick it in the show notes, a link to it or something, and it'll be good.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes our show for this week. No, anyway, we appreciate you spending your time with us. We hope you get something out of this. If you do, or if you do like it, be sure to subscribe, follow our page, go to YouTube, subscribe there, follow us on wherever you're listening to us at. And if you have any questions regarding the writing world, be sure to reach out at authorsdilemma@gmail.com. And we would be more than happy to converse, try to answer any of your questions or whatever. So we appreciate your time, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Bye.